Perfect. Thank you. And welcome to the Human Design New Year. We are here, and it seemed like a while before we finally got here. And but then, on the other hand, it kind of went fast too. I'm kind of really excited about it. I think the most important thing for me, I think, is I really feel like this Human Design New Year is going to show us something like in the beginning of the year, like right now. And then when Pluto goes into the gate 41 in April, I'm thinking that that's going to be when it's going to just show us something really cool and kind of give us this idea of an ability to transform something. Because I mean, that's what Pluto is all about. So it's kind of exciting. Hi, everybody. And where are you guys from? If you could write where you're from, I'd love to hear it. Hi, Philomena and Above Beyond and Sob and uh, I'm going to go with your last name, Dimitrova. I apologize if I've mispronounced it. Denmark. Oh, cool. Very cool. I tried to make it in the middle of the day so that, we could get as many people in. Pakistan. Cool. Very cool. Nice to have you here. Germany. Yeah. Galtana. Yes. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly because I usually write your name, but not necessarily do I say it. So, yeah. I was wondering about your opinion on this. I know the rave chart isn't okay, so let me see. You probably shouldn't be do an overlay composite, but with 2024 here, there's 6 gates in opposition to mine, so they form a channel in a way. I would love to hear what you think. Okay, so okay, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking if the human design chart is going to impact you. Is that what you're saying, based on the specific human design chart for the new year, or are we talking about sort of transits that go through the year? Oh, hi, Sab from Texas. Nice to meet you. So I'm asking you, Galtana, about your question above that you were just. I just figure I'll just get right into the questions and see what I can add in. So yeah, and I saw before we started the chat, I'll wait for you to clarify that question for me, and I will answer it as soon as you do. The one thing I saw was that a couple of people who are reflector types were saying that they were sort of not feeling that they were seen and heard enough. And I do actually plan on making a video in the future because I have some more information about reflector types now, and I think that I could probably, add more to the conversation because I think that yes, their reflector types are underserved, and I think that if we can get people to feel like they're part of the system, especially where reflector types. I mean, based on what Ra Uruhu said, he basically was talking about this idea that reflector types are really important for our process and moving forward in the program, as he used to call it, and knowing your transits and knowing about how the energy is moving and sort of interacting with people and being part of that environment is very important for reflector types. Okay, so let me just see here. Rochester, New York, nice to see you. The rave chart as a background frequency of the collective. Yeah, I mean, I think if we look at the human design chart for the new year, I mean, there's a lot of really cool things on it, and I did pull it up to make sure that I had it. One thing I thought was really cool. And yes, I think if it's interacting with your chart, I think that, yeah, that's going to give sort of an imprint. But I think that, it is like, you could almost say it's a solar return, but it's really the solar return for like the human design new year. So I would say, yes, as a collective, we would interact with it. But I think that, the real dynamic transits of the year are the ones that we're going to really feel into, more than anything. So I would say use both. But the human design new year, I think it's a really cool chart. I think the what is it? The moon in the gate 12 line 4. I mean, this is a prophet, and I love that because I think it's really cool because the whole thing about the gate 12 is it's this idea of it being a throat gate, and it really is about knowing when it's the correct time for you to, talk about your mutation, about what you want to bring to the collective. So when we have the gate 12 line 4, this is like knowing when it's the time. It's like you have this prophecy, okay, this feels like it's a safe time. So you're given this kind of heads up that says yes. And then when we look at the moon, I mean, this is our emotions, and this is sort of the standard. I mean, Ra Uru, who used to say that the moon was really, what kept Earth in balance. So it's really an important a place for it to be. So I think that yes, we can be tapping into it. But also, if you look at the transits, I did talk about like in the my transit video for the year ahead. You look at Uranus and going into the gate 8. I think that's pretty incredible. I think that if you are somebody who is just trying to get your uniqueness out into the world. I mean, I think it's going to be a great opportunity because, especially with Uranus, because it is so unusual, different. And again, Uranus can be connected to Aquarius, and this idea of Pluto going into Aquarius. You have this transformation of that whole process, and then we have the internet and seeing yourself online and those types of things. Like, I just feel like it really is going to be something where, especially if you have gate 8, the one, or the whole channel. And I'm not saying that that's just who's going to be impacted. I think a lot of people can be impacted. I think that that's the coolest part about it, is that you may not know how you're going to be impacted until you kind of are. So let's see. I'm going to quickly look at these. Did that answer your question? Gives me tasks with these. Yeah, I'm glad that you feel. Yeah, so Philomena, yeah, I definitely will do something for reflector types for sure. In the future. It's going to take some time to do that because I want to make sure it's correctly done, so that you're getting something that's of value to you, as opposed to just kind of throwing something out there and not being that good. What are your thoughts on the 5720 channel, particularly the one in and consciously defined? Okay. So the 5720 channel is like it is intuition right to your throat center. So in other words, this can be like you having intuitive hits right away, like boom, and you kind of speak whatever's in comes to your mind. And when it's conscious, the thing about the consciousness is that we're aware of it. So is it potential that maybe when you do have it conscious, that you're sort of holding back your intuition because you're going, okay, oh, I get this hit, as opposed to when we have it unconscious, or we have the design side, this is your body talking. It's like your voice. I mean, I've had this before myself, where I've had these really weird things have happened, where and of course my intuition comes from my logic, because it's a 1648. And basically, I remember meeting somebody, and hadn't seen them for a while, and I said, congratulations on your new job. And they just looked at me as if what's wrong? How do you know? And I knew for some reason, and I didn't consciously say, okay, I'm going to say this. It just came out. And my whole 1648 is design side. So it's my body talking. It's unconscious. So that's what I feel about that. Hello, Mr. Sage Nold. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here. It's great that you were here. And no, you didn't miss it. I'm glad that you were able to come. Did that answer your question about the 5720, Claire? Did that help out a little bit? How many people actually feel their defined centers? I feel all 3 of mine. Okay, well, that's a group question. I mean, anybody want to write in the chat what they think about? And while we're waiting for that, I wanted to really kind of talk again about the Gate 41. I mean, because today is a big day for, the Human Design New Year. I really was looking back at, how things begin. And, from a perspective of, I think we a lot of times think that only if we have the Gate 41, or only if we have the Gate 30, or only if we have even the opposition, the Gate 31, that we're going to be impacted by, the transits of, Pluto and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really thinking that, based on my experience and based on what I've been hearing from other people, I mean, we're all going to be affected. If you have some abstract energy, any kind, any gate, you probably will be affected. I mean, I used to think that the gate 42 and the 53, like that was really impactful for people who had those gates for beginning and ending things. But I think that those are triggers for the collective. And I think that, you know, I was looking at the trend of there's been a lot of YouTubers who have been they've been quitting, and these are people who have been around for a long time. And it was so interesting how all this came about when we had the nodes in the 42 and the 32. So it's like this ambitious dream, and you're suddenly saying, okay, yeah, maybe it's not for me anymore. You know, because if you look at the gate 42, it is in opposition to the gate 32. And so you have this tribal energy of trying to, you know, to get ahead, to be successful, to have money, because that's the tribal imperative. And then you have this perspective of closing out something. What does it matter to me? Does it mean that I want to spend more time with my family, which a lot of people were saying they want to do more times of being away? And then so they say, okay, I'm going to go to a different perspective of tribal, you could say, and then let go of that ambitious perspective of it, because it really is kind of business energy. Okay. How many people feel they're defined centers? I'd love you to talk about the mutation happening in 2027 a bit more. Okay. Oh, definitely. I do plan on doing some videos on 2027, and I just really want to collect it all together in a way that it is kind of like the way you know, the way I present my videos. And I mean, for me, it's like I have to know, you know, sort of in a way where I feel like I can bring it all together. Because if I try and sort of jump ahead and kind of not know that what I'm talking about like really well, then what'll happen is you won't get anything really coherent from me. It's just the way I operate. So I have to sort of really get into that mode of feeling what it's like. I've been you know, studying and listening about 2027 for a while, but now I have to sort of uh collate it all together and then start to break it up and say, okay, well, what kind of a subject is this? Because I was just listening a couple days ago to the lock and keys, and I think that's pretty incredible. This idea of you have these locks, and it's all in the identity center, and we have keys, and it is I think if you look at that, even I think there's a connection between, you know, people who are interested in human design. You know, do you have the lock and, you know, the key? So for instance, one of the locks is the gate 13, and the key is the gate 61. So occult information can bring you into human design, or something that is like of the netherworlds that you don't really know about. So really cool stuff. I can't really get into it now. Like I said, I have to really collate it, make it nice and clear so that we can all sort of talk about it in a way where it's like practical, because that's kind of what I do. Let us see what else. You have the 1648 as well. Yeah, there you go. Uh, definitely feel your solar plexus. Is it true that 4-1 projectors are karma dealers? Hmm. I don't know. Where did you hear that? Like, I haven't heard that. And could you expand on what that actually means by karma dealer? Because I mean, if you look at the left angle and the right angle, it really is talking about the idea of, you know, we have karma, you know, when you have a left angle and right angle, you know, it's not the same. Um, I did a whole video on karma, and it is kind of interesting in human design, but I think that there's so many ways that karma can be described. I think that it kind of is almost too simplistic the way we describe it in human design. So it is an expansive field, and I think that from my perspective, I'm a 6-2. So I will give you my perspective is I've had a lot of karmic events happen in my life that, you know, they were just kind of orchestrated by the universe. And it's sort of been the way. And, you know, it's like one event leads me to the next event, leads me to the next event. So if you ask me if karma is a part of the left angle profile of my, you know, my process, absolutely. And I think that a lot of people with the left angle, but does that mean that people with a right angle don't ever have it? I don't think that's the case. I think that we just, you know, it might be more of you could say you have more of a choice, I could say, with the right angle, whereas I think with the left angle, I think it kind of just takes you places. And of course, you always have a choice. You know, we always have a choice to decide. And I know that you know, the main premise of human design is we have no choice. But I think that we have a choice to decide what's correct for us. And that to me is always going to be the underlying purpose of human design. It's your authority. It's your business to decide what is correct for you, what is not correct for you, what do you believe and what you don't believe. And I think that for me is always going to be underlined in bold 1,000 times. Your authority, your decision, you're the master of what you decide to believe and what you decide not to. And if something feels good and it feels right to you, then it's right. But if it doesn't, then usually, and see, that's what we oftentimes do. We just say, okay, well, everybody's telling me I should do this, but it doesn't feel good. And then you wonder, is it fear or is it actually truth? And I think that, finding out what is fear and what is truth is like one of those key things that you can really, advance in life and do really well. What do we have here? Any advice for a reflector 5-1? I'm still new to this concept, a little confused to find myself. Yeah, you know, like I said, I will do the video, and I think that I don't want to say something just off the head, like just completely off my just from memory right now, because I don't think it's going to be, to your best advantage. I want you to get the best, and so that I can, do some research on that and really bring something to the table that will actually, have some value to you. I have the gate line 4 as a personality sun. Yeah, I mean, I think Pluto could be very impactful to you. Hi, Denise, Oksana. Thank you, Oksana. Beautiful. I find myself on the roof with tons of questions to this universe. Oh yeah, we all do. That's part of it, right? I'm a generator 6-3, and I'd like to listen about your own experience with the stages of 6 line of pile. Yeah, it's yeah, it is really interesting how it just plays out in your life. I mean, so, your Saturn return is that moment where you kind of, go on the roof. But of course, everybody has a different process of when they do it and when they don't. For me, I think the most cool thing that happened, and again, this was orchestrated by the universe, not by me, was I had my first child within days of my Saturn return. So that was my new going on the roof, and it was me going on the roof to completely do something different. And then, as the years go on, and I think the biggest thing that we have to always remember when we go on the roof, it doesn't mean that your life just stops. Your life continues. Your life always continues. There are people who have careers, and their careers can grow during the roof stage. It is really just this time of sitting with your process and really understanding this idea of what it actually means to me. What did those years when I was sort of living vicariously through my third line, you could say, what did they mean to me? What did I learn from them, and how is it going to evolve? And the thing about the 6 line process that I think is really cool is that, there is this, it is from birth right until your Chiron return, you're in a mutative stage and you're always mutating. So you're always changing. And then it's like when you hit your Chiron, I mean, this is what Ra Uruhu said, you basically come off the roof and you have everything you need, and your mutation is all there. And so, taking that time on the roof to really find yourself, or whatever is correct for you, is really, it's worth the time. But again, your life doesn't stop. And I think that that's what people think. It's like, oh, life just stops. It doesn't. It never stops. Life always keeps moving. Changes is inevitable. Even if we don't want things to change, it changes. So this is part of our life, right? Okay. I'd like to listen. Okay. I just found out about that recently too. Okay. I just want to say I think you're thank you. Thank you. I heard another HD coach mention the 4-1. Well, you know what? Everybody about the 4-1 karma dealer, I mean, the thing about the 4-1 is it is a fixed karma, right? They say it's a fixed, it's karma. And, it is the most, I could say that, based on the profile, it's basically saying, okay, this is how your life, I think it's even more fixed than the left angle. So, I mean, that's ultimately what that might be where that came from. Um, I mean, I don't know, like, as soon as I see a label, does it feel correct to you is what I would say. If it feels correct to you, then yeah, sure. If you see that in your life playing out, then you could say that. But obviously they have a reason for saying that. And because I don't really know, sort of, for me, it's like, what would be the rationale to say that? And if I knew from that perspective, then I could probably give a more adequate sort of response to say what I think about that perspective. Um, do I plan to start doing chart readings analysis again? I was hoping the book would help out with the chart readings in that respect. But I mean, it was a long process of writing, and I loved, I loved getting into all the nitty gritty and finding out information that I just thought, oh, I never knew that, and I want to share that with people. And to me, that was like the best part of it. And I think that I'm the writing perspective. I'm gonna continue to do the writing because I like it, and the chart analysis. I'm not sure yet. That's something I'm just gonna sit with for a little while and see what feels correct for me. What is it? A little flooding going over here. Well, I hope you're okay. Yeah, that's no good. We're getting a little bit of snow coming up today and tomorrow. I think we haven't had much. 6-line profiles, know about their third line phrase. I think that's really important. I think that, you know, I did a short the other day, and it was really talking about this idea of the third line process of a 6 line. And there's nothing wrong with a third line process. I mean, third line energy is so valuable to the collective. If we didn't have people with third lines, and nothing would ever new would happen, because this is the experimentation. This is like getting out into life and finding out what works and what doesn't work, and then telling people about it. I mean, I think it's such important energy. But if you are, and if you are 6-3, you're always going to be a third line. You're always going to have that process in there. But the 6th line is different than the third line. And that's really what I want to say. It's like the 6th line is basically it takes all those third line messages and information, and then it shifts. And it is also this idea from, if you're looking at the third line as experimentation and moving forward, and then we know that the harmonic is the 6th line, and this is where we're kind of becoming the role model. Well, what exactly does that mean? It really is this idea of taking all these lessons, taking all this information, and then just walking your path. And the 6th line process is about being the best version of your authentic self, and whereas the third line process is really about discovering about, what works and what doesn't, and kind of letting people know so that they can, basically, if there's a hole in the road and you're driving a car, the third line person is going to tell you there's a hole in the road. You're driving the car. Don't go there, because, it might wreck your axle or whatever. So that's kind of like why it's so important. But when you get to the 6th line, it is a whole different process of, and one is not better than the other. It's just different. And it's a brand new process where you're ultimately becoming somebody who's just saying, okay, if we look at, okay, I'm going to go change this up to the 5th line process of teaching. A 5th line process is, okay, this is how you put the brick one after the other after the other. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it. A 6th line process is, I'm building a brick wall, and people are basically, watching me and say, oh, that's interesting how you do that. And they learn from me by building my brick wall. And so that's kind of an important thing. So that's a very long-winded explanation, I think, of, and I hope it helped. I don't know if it actually did or not, but there you go. What does mutation refer to? Well, mutation is really this idea of uh, changing and bringing something new to the table, whatever that is. And it is one of those kind of wiggly words that are difficult to explain. But it's like, if you look at, for instance, the mutation of the internet. So we began with, DOS, and it was very odd that, you would just kind of plug in, press one button and everything. And now we have the internet, right? So that is mutation. It got better, it changed. And then we have these things that come in, and, if you look at the 360 channel, because we've got Pluto in the 60, and that's really an important, for planet Earth. I mean, I think that if you look at that perspective, this gate 60 is where we have all the old genetic material, and the gate 3 is dipping into the old genetic material and bringing something out of it that's new. So this is kind of what mutation is. I hope that explains it. Okay. Oh, I'm glad. Thank you for that. Okay, so right angle of Eden. Is there any hope for me? Of course, there's hope. The only thing with the right angle of Eden, and I don't know every incarnation cross off off by heart, but the one thing I know about Eden is it's this difficulty with seeing the world as it is and wanting it to look more beautiful than it is. And I think that all we can do is we can keep moving forward. We can grow and be the best version of who you are, and just when you bring light to things, it just illuminates. And yes, I always say your light may be small, but it doesn't matter, it still shifts. I mean, bring a candle into a completely black room and see how much it lights up a room. So it's about maybe not necessarily seeing the beautiful things or seeing things that you wish were a certain way, but also just kind of bringing your light to the world, and that kind of shifts things just by nature. All right, what else do we have here? My cross-link. Informing. Yeah, my mother has that too. No, she has the explanation, but it is kind of, see, I don't know the cross of informing, but what I will do is I will, in the comments below this live stream, like when it becomes a video, I will see what I can find out about that, and I will write that, because I don't want to just say, because I don't even know the gates that are in it. There's so many of these crosses. I can't post my question because it's too long. Well, why it won't let you? I hopefully we'll maybe just take out a few words if I can just get the gist of it. Do you want to hear it low? 3.5 projector. Okay. I think mutation. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Nichama. I hope that's correctly. I dove into the 4 transformation early. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Bringing something into new, improved. On how you saw the connection. Oh, with astrology and human design? Oh, absolutely. Well, because if you look at the mandala, it is actually the same as you would say as like a natal chart for astrology, and it has all the different. For me, the biggest thing was like when I found the degrees for each gate. Like that was like profound for me, because I thought, okay, yeah, I can actually really see this. And then at that point, when you can see, and I love it because if you look from an astrological perspective, you see Pluto moves very, very slowly. And Pluto obviously just moved into Aquarius, which is a big deal. And it is a big deal for us because it's going to be moving into the gate 41, because the gate 60 kind of it straddles between Capricorn and Aquarius. But the gate 41 is directly in as far as I remember, is in Aquarius. And so anyhow, it is this idea of being able to look at each gate, and how many gates are different, and they're bringing different themes. So you have Pluto going through Aquarius, but then it's bringing out this gate of of what it is. Gate 41, of course, is starting everything. It is the initiating code, and it's a brand new cycle. And I think it's going to be a brand new cycle for planet Earth. And I was even thinking about Neptune. And I was kind of thinking, okay, well, we have Neptune moving into the gate 25, and what does that actually mean? And then I looked back to 2023 and Neptune in the gate 36, and I thought, okay, well, we saw that there was a lot of chaos um, being hidden, really. And every once in a while, when we would have the full channel, like the 35, 36 channel, I felt like it was showing sort of what was happening. And but then we have the opposition. So you really look at, on the mandala, you look at the opposition, which is the gate 6. And I thought, okay, yes, there were, unfortunately, there was a lot of wars that began during this particular time. So then I looked at the gate 25, and I thought, okay, well, this is like universal love. And this is half of the 35, half of the 2551 channel, which is like the channel of the shaman or priestess. So it does bring this spiritual bent to it, but it does also universal love of anything, or obviously there's always duality, universal hate, which is obviously something that is not loved. But then if we look at the opposition to the gate 25, it's the gate 46, and the gate 46 is the it can be called the temple, or the love of the flesh, or love of the body. And so then I wondered, are we going to have a sort of an uptick in things that are good for our bodies, things are that are, or just bodies in general, caring for the flesh and body consciousness. And I think that for human design perspective, I think body consciousness, like if we have an uptick in body consciousness, I think that would be actually incredible, because that is, the basis. I mean, that's our design. Our bodies are basically taking us where we need to go. And being aware of that and kind of really connecting with your body, like I think if we can do that, I think that would be so beneficial. And that is something that human design brought for me, is this connection with what my body wants and what it doesn't want, and not being able to bypass it with my personality, saying, oh, it doesn't matter, I can do this and this. And really changing, making lifestyle changes. And that's what I really noticed. And it was very gradual, something that just kind of came with the territory of human design. So I think there's so many benefits that we could get from body consciousness. Thank you. And Ellen, this year might be a big year for you with the Uranus going into the gate 8. I mean, that's going to really hook you up. And I don't know if you have especially like whenever you have a transit of a longer transit with a slower moving planet, and if it activates, a center that's not normally activated, especially with the nodes, hugely, profound for your life and your process and your year ahead. If the nodes interact with one of your gates, your hanging gates, and bring definition, it can really like shift things up in your life. And I will do a node video coming up soon. That's on my list of things to do. Let's see. Uh, the pressure and opportunity to evolve. Yes, for sure. Uh, my projector daughter feels she learns a lot from me while others don't. You know what? That's the same. That's the nature of it all. I mean, there are going to be, and I think that a lot of it can be related to even interactions with your body graph. So that's sometimes nice to look at. Like you're talking about your children. I know that one of my children brings the 12, like between us, we have the 1222. And, younger days, boy, we would get into some pretty good uh, interactions, you could say. But human design for me basically said that, if this was the situation, if we were getting into things, it wasn't going to be solved. 1222 energy is not to be solved. This is emotional energy, and it's highly emotional energy. And so the key with that was like disengaging. And I would always disengage after I learned human design. And it was really funny. We were talking about it, and he was saying, we haven't had any of these really big fights in a very long time. And I said, yeah, that's because of human design. Literally, that's why. Because I am aware that, okay, this is not going to be solved, and it always works out so much better. So, really looking at your chart and looking at interactions with people, emotional channels that get activated, and even if you're being influenced by a long transit, like Neptune in the gate 36, if you had a hanging gate 35, we're going to have Saturn moving into the gate 22 this year. If you have a hanging gate 12, these are all interactions that are going to give you full channel if you have hanging gates, and they can really bring up, like if you don't have emotional energy, you might start to feel like, wow, why do I feel this way? Especially with anything that's individual, it's melancholy can be a big deal. So learning about that is really great too. Okay. Yeah, I know, as a reflector type, I mean, that is not easy. But having said that, you know, um, I think that Rahu said something like, interacting with the transits was a better way to understand people and their motivations. And so that's why, as a reflector type, I mean, we can all benefit from the transits for sure. But this idea understanding the transits and feeling the transits. And I always used to think that reflector types were like, yeah, yes, you are connected to the moon, there's no question about that, but there is this perspective of, are the other planets, can you connect it with those? And yes, the answer is what he said on one of his recordings was basically yes, you could. And I think that exploring that energy and just feeling how it is, um, and it really is able to kind of connect with, oh, right now we have Mars in the gate 38, and that might, or in Mercury in the gate 38, that might make things a little bit more heated, a little bit more, kind of standing up for your truth, and maybe not always standing up for your truth, but sometimes just kind of getting into something. But seeing that from the perspective of feeling the energy of the transit and understanding how people are, and then I guess you could say, well, this is my time to be out of that fray and kind of space myself from this energy, because I know that it's not beneficial energy to me at this particular time. Any pointers for 5-1 manifestor with a 1-8 define that spends a multiple decade conditioning to the full expression, to stifle this full expression? The only way you can get out of it is to recognize it and say, okay, this is me. And the thing about being yourself is what you'll notice is that there will be people who will not like that, you know? They won't like you for your new you. But it's not really the new you, it's the you. And that's fine. I mean, I know it's not easy, but on the other perspective, I look at my life as saying, okay, who understands my process? Like I think that to me is so important, to be able to be myself and not, try and pretend to be anybody else. I think that to me is the only way I can live. And I think that once you sort of look at that perspective as saying, that is my right, my that's my purpose for this life, to be who I am, not to be, somebody else, or, try and fit into that mold or to whatever. I mean, then it starts to chip away at all that, conditioning that said you should be this or you should be that, or, why are you not like this? And I think that one of my biggest conditioning perspectives came from the perspective that I was said, oh, like you should have, more out time, and I am a hermit. That's part of my my profile, and it always felt really good to sort of be in my own space. And I know that the second line process is you need to get away. You need to get away from the fray to recharge and to wait for the correct call. And when the correct call comes, then you can decide, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And not every call is gonna be correct, of course. But when it feels like it's right, you'll know it's right. But always saying, well, you should be doing more, and that's, it's not normal to be alone and all that kind of stuff. And just say, well, yeah, for me it is done. Moving on, like that's literally what it is. And I think that is one of those things, as growing up myself, is always, just speaking my truth, saying what I want to say, and not really being filtered. And that got me in a lot of trouble. But in the end, uh, got to live your truth, and that's kind of my mantra. If you have hanging gate 38 in Mars, and now there's a transit in the sun, how will that affect my gate? Any transit to your gates can activate that energy, because it's going to kind of it's going to be a planet that's sort of on a planet, you could say. So yeah, right now you have Mars and Mercury. So maybe you want to speak your truth. Maybe you want to talk about the things that are important to you. Maybe that you want to talk about the fights that are important to you, because Mercury is going to bring that. It doesn't always have to be an aggressive energy. When you know what the right fight for you is, then that's your truth. And that really doesn't make it about anger or anything like that. It really makes it about, this is my truth. I'm going to speak that truth. You may not like it. That's okay. We'll agree to disagree. Parallel beliefs. And I think that the more we have parallel beliefs and understand that I have an opinion and you have an opinion, it's all good. You know, and sometimes you can ask people about their opinions and say, oh, well, why do you think that? And I think that to me is one of the most interesting perspectives is to look at somebody else's opinion, and it may be really different from you, and go, oh well, yeah, and to kind of get into their mindset and say, okay, what is that, why do you believe that? And I think that when you open up to other people and their perspectives, it really shifts a lot of things in how they're feeling received, because we all want to be received in a way where we're being respected for input. And just because you don't necessarily align with that input doesn't mean that it's not their truth. It's their truth, because if you have, if you ask people to respect your truth, then if they're not respecting, how can we not respect other people's truth, is basically what I'm trying to say. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. I have the 4426 channel. And if I haven't answered your question, I do apologize. You can just write it again, because I've got it slowed down, but sometimes I don't catch everyone. I have the 4426 channel. I keep hearing that I can sell anything, but it's been the opposite for me, and I can't attract. Okay, so remember, whenever you have the 4426, this is tribal energy. So if you're going out there and you're bringing this really innovative project, and I always look at it prospectively, if you have like, none of us have, like, usually we don't have just one type of energy. We have several different types of energy. And if you have like a lot of individual energy, but yet you have this channel and you think, well, I want to sell my creative works of art, and they're beautiful, and everybody should, this is how I want to make my money. What happens is, the 4426 brings this energy of the tribal sales, and tribal sales is really about this idea of something that's already in existence, and you're bringing in your kind of tweak. So in other words, for me, I wrote a book about human design. It's not the first in the world. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that Ra Aruhu talked about, and many other people talk about, and that is a tribal way. I'm bringing my own spin to it. Now, if you're trying to sell something very unique, so what I always say, if you have a lot of individual energy and you're very creative and you have this uniqueness, I always look at it as saying, is there a job that you can, make money tribally, but also you can work on this other, more innovative, unique thing? Because eventually it comes together, but it usually takes a little bit more time, because mutation takes more time, right? Excuse me for a second. I'm getting over a bit of a cold, so after a while, my voice kind of goes. I hope that helps, because it isn't about, like, just selling anything. It is really specific, and I think that that's another video I'd like to make, because even a little bit of tribal energy in a body graph can really affect how we make money. And I think that that's not something that we see enough of. And we have these ideas of, manifest, your things, and those types of things. And, manifestation is not the same way for everybody. And especially if you're, got tribal energy, this is like really about, bringing that tribal kind of, good, or, thing that you're bringing that is already in existence. It's very, very key. Yeah, Ra Uru, always joked about certain things. I mean, the thing about it is large splits definition. I don't know about. I think we're all kind of unique, and yeah, he was here to shock, and he was here to get the mutation across, and we're lucky. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm able to find this and to be able to talk about it. Like, literally, I just feel so lucky to be able to chit chat with you guys and talk about human design. And really, um, it is the biggest gift that I can have, to be able to talk about human design with you guys, and listen to your stories, and hear about things that you're questioning. And I love that. So thank you for allowing me to do this. This is wonderful. I grew up with a family of projectors, and why is HT was this difficult for me? I think that, I mean, this could even be like if you were somebody who was the only emotionally defined person in a family, and everybody else was, open emotionally. You can imagine, and it really depends upon how you're emotionally defined. That's kind of a powerful energy that's coming at people. And if you look at the perspective of projector energy, it's very different. I mean, you have this generated energy. So I would think that, you're always kind of bringing this battery that's all charged up, and maybe somebody doesn't want to be charged up. I can look at this from a perspective of, I'll just talk about a specific channel and how it changes. Like, one of my sons has a 515 channel, and this is like being in the flow of his flow, right? And it's a very, very powerful aura busting channel. And so when he was away at university, the dynamic in the house was very different. But then when he comes back, it's like very like, we have a schedule and we have all the different things, and sort of all his energy of his whole body graph gets kind of like heightened and activated, um, to kind of take over well, you could say take over all the energy in the environment, which is fine, but it is a huge shift and a huge difference. So it really could be not it could be, yes, it could be the generator perspective, but it also could be interactions. Like, do you bring an energy that's really different than, the rest of the household? You know what I mean? Like, I don't have integration, but everybody in my household has integration. So I'm always being sort of connecting with the whole integration circuit, although I don't have it. So, you know, is that an intensity that feels a certain way? Or, so that's what I would look at. I would look at what are the difference in the body graph, as much as it is just the type. Because I think that, when you get into each body graph and see the energies and how you hook up, and are you hooking up with emotional channels, or are you hooking up with energy that is um like a 45 and a 21 channel? That can be, there could be some energy with that, especially with will center stuff. Those are energies that we can really feel. What do we have here? Okay, let me just see. I have 41.3, and you mentioned Pluto entering Aquarius. It won't be getting to the 41 line 3 for a couple of years, I think. Let me just double check on that. I have this is a wonderful thing to have if anybody, these ephemerises, because I've got them. They're just amazing. And yes, there is the ephemeris you can get. Oh, this only goes to 25, so that's actually no value. But yeah, I think the 41 3, it is the 20. I think it's in 2025. Actually, I should just double check if it is going to go to yeah, see the 60 line 5. So yeah, because we have such retrogrades, it takes the energy back so far, and it really takes a long time. But think about this. We're all going to be in April, and even now, April, especially though, we're all beginning a brand new cycle. And I think that's really, really cool. Like, this is like happens every 248 years. That's a long time. And we're all going to be able to be part of that. And I think that's really, I think it's kind of so amazing to imagine that we're going to be part of this transition. And it is a brand new cycle. I mean, like, think about the gate 41 as it is the experience of being alive. Like, this is it. Like, the abstract energy in, the gate 41 is like the initiating codon. It is like being alive, to be in this life, to feel what it feels like. And I think that yes, Pluto is going to transform, and it's going to change, and all those types of things. But I'm kind of like wondering what it's all going to bring. And again, like I said this in the beginning, and if you came later, the one thing I was looking at is like, right now we're in the gate 41 line 1, and it is the beginning of the human design new year. And then Pluto is going to be going into the gate 41 line 1. So like, what is it going to, are you getting some I mean, I would say, like, take a really good picture of the next 24 hours, you could say, and see, what's Pluto showing you when it comes in April, of this year. And is it giving you some ideas, because it could be that you're beginning a brand new cycle. And maybe you're starting something new now, but maybe maybe you're going to go right out of the gate, or maybe it will be reactivated when Pluto comes in. It's just going to give us a little taste. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, the live, I mean, I think I'd like to do it, more, for sure. I think it'd be kind of fun, and I think that, if I can set it up properly, like, obviously, this is, like, sort of I think I did a live stream, like, a multitude of years ago, but it obviously things change, and there are some plugins that you can get. Ultimately, it will be better because I could even share screens and show charts, and we could talk about different things, and it would just be more like conducive to having a better experience for you guys. So that's what I'm hoping to do in the future. So I'm gonna get my learning cap on and figure out how to do that. Yet on the tribal energy and making money, especially with Uranus involved. Yeah, amazing. Okay, I have 21 line 3. That went away. Um, oh, completely withdrawal from money. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so then I do too. I have that same line, and Saturn's activating it, so it's my big lesson. So yeah, I did that. I did that one time, of the whole perspective. But yeah, it really is, getting back into the world, and for me, it's really being your own boss. I think that's huge, and I know that's not possible for everybody, but I think that if you can even see that as something that you might try at some point to work towards, that might be worth your it might be worth it for you, especially with tribal energy. Like, I feel like if we have just a little bit of tribal energy, I really think that it really changes the whole way we make our money. It really does in our abundance, because it is very specific on how it says, okay, A plus B equals C, and this is how you get your money. Um, Interpreting the nodes. Well, the nodes are your environment, and I think that yeah, I definitely will move on to talking more about the nodes, and remember, for the last 2 years, I've been sort of buried in writing my book, and I think that it feels like I've got some freedom to actually to make the videos. Like, I would think, oh, I'd love to make that video, but I don't have time. So it was just being hooked into my computer and saying, this is really, at this moment in my life, this is very important, because I think that people need to know more about themselves so they can interact in the world in a way where they feel empowered. And that's literally what I did. But now I can make more of those videos. And the thing about the nodes, though, is that's really important, is really talking about your environment, how you grew up, and when you hit your nodal shift, and that's usually around your Uranus opposition. Now, they say it doesn't matter as much for 6 lines, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that we all feel impacted when we have our Uranus shift, our Uranus opposition, because it's an opposition. It's really kind of bringing you to this crescendo of what your life means, and then you sort of shift into your new node. But I think for some people, it's very specific and obvious, and I think that if you also look at, what are they part of? Like, for instance, like, the one thing that I think that is really, really important to know about is your dormant gates. Especially if it's a dormant gate that is in, like, an important part of your body graph. Like, so for instance, if your sun is a dormant gate, like your sun, your personality sun, or even your design sun, or your design earth, or moon. And when I say dormant gate, it is basically a gate that is in an open center. And it basically just like, it's an open center, and it means that it only gets activated at specific times, and that could be with electromagnetics, and that's the communication with people, or basically being in the aura of somebody else who has the harmonic, or the perspective of the transits. And I think that with a transit, of course, it always will bring this energy of the planet with it. But the other perspective is, you don't need somebody to be sitting with you, and you don't need to have that energy from somebody, because it can sometimes be almost, you need that person. You think you need that person, but it's really the energy to light you up, because that's what happens. It lights up your energy when you get that harmonic. It lights up your sun. So in other words, your sun is just waiting to be lit up. So any of your energies that are dormant gates, really tapping into any transits, or going out to, like, a public place and getting that energy. Like, usually you'll find that energy in a public place. And the nice part about that is it's not connected to somebody. You don't have to sort of be with somebody to feel what it feels like to have that energy lit up. So that's important. I hope that helps with the nodes. But yeah, I'll talk more about the nodes for sure in the future. Whoops. I don't want to pin that comment. Although I'm doing all kinds of goody stuff. All right, here we go. I actually don't have a lot of individual energy, mostly tribal and collective, trying to stand out. Yeah, I know. It's not easy with the tribal energy. I understand that, but like I know that there's somebody, like some people will say, well, I do, you know, I do something that may not necessarily be my dream job, but it's something that sort of makes money and then I can spend more time. But if you have a lot of collective energy, we know that immediately you're going to want to share. You're going to want to share something. And so it doesn't, feel like I know that sounds kind of terrible, but when you have a lot of collective energy, it doesn't feel like it's worthwhile unless you can share with other people. So that's kind of an important thing too. And I understand that perspective of trying to find that thing, but I think that eventually it just kind of finds you. It really does. And I mean, I will tell you right now, sitting here in this, in this live stream talking about human design, in 2013, I would say even 2014, because it was September 2014 when I found human design, or it found me. I didn't have any idea. And I thought about it because I live very close to Toronto, Ontario. And I thought they were having human design conferences there and everything. And I could have went, and I had no idea. But, everything is a time thing. I think when it's time for you to do something and to begin something and to start that new cycle, it just kind of clicks. And for me, it has. And you're just finding that thread. And I think the coolest thing is the 38 line 6. And I don't know if I can't remember if that's in this the Human Design New Year, is it or not? But I was talking about the 38 line 6 is what I meant to say. The cool thing about the 38 line 6 is, and whether you like Jeff Bezos or not, I think he has this in his body graph. It's this idea of not really knowing, where you're going, but kind of having a feeling that that's kind of where you're supposed to go. Not really having the picture, not really knowing exactly how it's going to play out, only that it's going to play out. And I think that with collective energy, kind of moderating the expectation is really key, especially with abstract energy. And now, if I had the screen properly set up, I could show you all the abstract energies, and I could screen share with you. But it's one of those things that expectation is really like one of those things that kind of really mute a lot of the happiness we have in our lives, because we expect things to be a certain way and it just turn out that way. It's like, oh my gosh, that was kind of a waste of time. But what was the benefit? What was the gem? What was the diamond within it all? And that's kind of what we need to step away from with a lot of abstract energy, or even abstract energy one gate in a place where it's impactful for you, especially with Neptune. In the gate 36 right now, it's like we have a lot more expectation of how things should play out, how our experiences should play out. And life doesn't always turn out the way we expect it to. And that is something that is really key for moving through and just accepting the world as it is, as opposed to how you want it to be. Can you speak more about the 5539 channel? It's my only channel. I mean, that is, this is a channel that's under a tremendous amount of mutation because of the 2027 mutation that we're going through. So yeah, it may be your only channel, but this is definitely an impactful channel. And the gate 55, like we can pull them apart. We put the gate 55 in this is the abundance of spirit, but then this can also look at lack in your life and what don't I have instead of what do I have. The gate 39, of course, is, provoking the spirit of people, and it is kind of turning people on, but you can't turn everybody on. And so I guess it's really about finding the people that are correct for you. And again, the lines can really be helpful. Like if you can look at the lines of your 5539 channel, I think this will bring a lot. Like even if you like if you have the gate 55 in line 2 and then the 39 is in line 5, I mean that would be like in a really good harmonic. So they're kind of potentially going to work nicer together. But, you know, that's going to be in harmony. And then even if you have it in the 55 and a 1 and a 39 and a 1, 39 line 1, and that's gonna be resonance. Now, if it's dissonance, it might mean the energy is something that you've gotta work a little bit more with. But then you're also gonna always have the themes of the lines, and I think that that really just brings that benefit to you to really say, "Okay, this is what, this is what I'm supposed to be." Like, if you look at the gate 59, for instance, you look at it as a lot of times people will say it's sexy energy, it's breaking barriers, all kinds of stuff like that, which it is. But there's also the perspective of it is about breaking barriers. It is about, what is a breaking barrier? Like a breaking barrier could be just writing a really good booklet on explaining something. I mean, that's breaking a barrier. Somebody's got a barrier to learn to not know about something, and then you write a really good booklet. So, the one thing I've seen, like with I'm speaking very specific because that's my personality son, looking at an incarnation cross that said I was like, would be great as a sexual, I don't know, counselor or something like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is not me. And so that's why for me, these incarnation crosses, I think they're great if people get it right. But a lot of times I don't think we do get it right. And I think that, just sitting with that energy of what that means to you and understanding, like, my son is the one night stand, so how does that play out in the world? When I first saw that. So it is very interesting, how these energies can play out and finding out your own way of being. Can you please? Okay. Emotional authority when it's unconscious. Um, the channel 59.6 is really different. It is not like your standard emotional energy. It really is energy that is it's different. And I wrote about it in my book, and I'm just trying to think of like the main thing. So if you think about the gate 6 is it is the center for all. It is the initiator for all the frequencies of all the emotional channels. And I was thinking about it like from a perspective of like just of an experimentation of thinking that the gate 6 line 1 is would be connected to tribal energy, and then the gate and maybe 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 would be more of individual, and then 4 and 5 would be more connected to collective energy because that's kind of how it breaks up. So does that mean sometimes you feel like, a collective energy based on your line, if you're like maybe a 6 line 4. So I'm kind of just dancing around it, but it is a really different energy. And I think that connected to your family, the 59.6 is really going to get activated, family or people who matter to you. If things are happening with people who are matter to you, then that's when it can be really be activated. But it is not like a ratchet wave, like you would say the 3740 or the 1949 or that type of thing. Oh, my kids and their design, yeah, they don't care. Not at all. Not even a little bit, and that's okay. Um, Somebody asked about if my, kids like, talk about their designs. They don't, and I'm completely good with that, and, it's just part of their process. Thing about it is that, when you have these kind of things where you're really interested in it, like just really being open to the idea that not everybody's going to get it, not everybody wants to get it, and being okay with that. And that's kind of what I like to do. I will talk the ear off anybody who wants to talk about human design, who wants to talk about human design. But if you don't are not interested, I will. There's no point in trying to, like I think that that's a thing that sometimes we get really excited about something, want to tell everybody about it, and that's great. But if people are not listening, then it becomes a little bit troubling for you because you're excited, and it kind of dampens your spirit, and we don't want that. I'm 660 line 6 north node conscious. Okay, cool. That will be a big. I think when Pluto goes through there, it'll be interesting to see how it feels for you. So the one thing about the 69.6 that I've, basically is this idea of getting a little too rigid with your limitations and feeling like maybe you're more confined than you need to be. And that's something to think about too. But you also remember that the sixth line is always going to act a little differently. Hi, Galactic Elf. Nice to see you here. Sun dormant gate 5. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So something to keep in mind. Activated Earth in gate 35. I mean, also the oppositions are kind of impactful. Like, so do we have the 15 going this year for the gate 5? I don't think we do. Like, as a big transit, I don't think we have the gate 15. So yeah, keeping when the sun and Earth go through the gate 15 would be great. Any ideas of the black moon Lilith? That's great stuff. That is something to think about in the future. But I read a lot about the Black Moon Lilith, but I'm not enough. I actually had a little booklet about it, and I think it's quite interesting. And I think that if you can bring that into your chart, like find out what the gate is and see how it affects your chart, I think it's great to try. I don't think there's any barrier to taking whatever you feel is correct for you to take it into your chart and have a look at how it affects you. Because I know that we don't use the midheaven or the ascendant for human design, but I think that why not? Like, why not try it out? If there's transits happening to those energies, if you're getting definition, you could say, how is it affecting you? I think that's really important to just experiment. And if it doesn't work, if it's not something that actually impacts you, that's great too. But at least right? Gate 39, great. That's great with the generational patterns. Whoops. A lot of compassion towards people in my life. Yes, when you can see people for a different perspective, it really makes a huge difference. Oh, you have the 59.6 too, right? Cool. Unconscious Jupiter in one line two. The one thing that we can do that I find is really easy is if you learn a little bit of the energy of each particular line. And so for instance, the first line, any place where you have first lines, this is where you're going to learn. You're going to want to learn as much as you can about that energy. So if you have gate in the first line, you want to make sure that, you're building a foundation, you're finding security in what you know. And it really is about your knowing about that particular energy. So it also, I always mention this, and I don't generally talk about colors because that can get confusing. And eventually in the future, I probably will talk more about them. But for now, it's like kind of something I'm going to work on in the future. But it is this, color. The first color is fear. So it is, okay, what is going to relieve that fear? And that is to know more. And this is the authoritarian. And you can go through all the role gates, the same thing. When you look at the gate 1, line 2, this is receiving the right call for you to bring your unique self to the world. This is one, connected to the 1-8 channel. Now, when Uranus goes through the gate 8, line 2, that might really feel like because you have the resonance that I talked about, where you have the two energies connecting together, which is great, right? So yeah, be interesting to see. And I will be talking. I'll have that on my community post, but let me just see here if I have that like easy access so I could tell you exactly when it is. 24. Yeah, it's going to go right up to 8, line 3, and we're going to have Uranus in the gate 8, line 2, and that will be going from June 25th right until July 16th. And of course, it'll come back later on, but that will not be until, I believe, that's not until October 19th, 2024, and that comes right into November 11th. So yeah, so those are dates that might be, it doesn't mean that Uranus will not affect you the whole time, because you're going to have the full channel, especially if it's going to give you any definition. The other question would be, are you going to feel potentially more sensitive to, to when you want to share yourself and people are not necessarily, like, if you don't generally have a channel that connects the identity center to the throat center, that can sometimes mean that you're going to potentially be more sensitive to anybody who's sort of pushing back against you, trying to share your uniqueness with them. So that's something to keep in. Remember, it's always going to be a projected energy. Projected energy is always about waiting for people to ask you for, and they will ask you, they will ask you for what you have to contribute. And if you wait, it's like suddenly it's like the ears are open and people just literally want to hear you. They want to hear what you have to say. And there's so much potential for the 1/8 channel to be that, really unique role model, just showing people like this is me and I'm being myself and I'm creating the way I want to create and I'm just living, you know, who I am and it feels good. All right, I'm gonna probably go for another 10 minutes and then I'm going to say that's it because I know my voice is gonna it's already sort of um, getting a little cracky and I don't want to start coughing. That would be horrible. Nobody wants to hear me cough. How do harmonics work over a distance? I don't know. Like I think that people talk about, you have to be in the aura of people, but I'm not necessarily sure that's true. I think that if we look at this whole perspective of the neutrino stream, how could it not be that, we are not interacting with people, maybe even virtually? Who knows? I know I feel things when I talk to people virtually. So how do other people feel the same? Potentially. So I don't think we can make a rule and say it only is going to be in the aura, but you know, again, this would be you experimenting with, okay, I'm with the person who has the gate 8 and I have the gate 1 and this is how I feel, as opposed to I'm talking to somebody who I know has the gate 8 and I have the gate 1 via Zoom, and how does that feel, and I think that would be the best way to sort of figure out how it works for you. And most people don't want to listen. Well, when it's the right timing, people will want to listen. That there's that Victor Hugo thing, when the timing is right. And I know this is incorrect. Um, yeah, I'm making up stuff now, but basically, the perspective is when the time is right, it happens, and not a moment before. And the universe has its own deal on when it is correct for all of us. And I think that connecting with, especially with anything that you've got individual or mutation, any of these energies, it takes time and how much we don't know. But it's cool because you get these little like nudges and these little pictures and these little kind of nuggets of something that show you, yeah, I'm getting there. It is coming. Not exactly sure when, but it's coming. Um, on the bases, no, I don't have anything about the bases. That's something, and I heard that the bases are something that are so specific. And I know there's a YouTube somebody who's really amazing at human design, Jonah Dempsey. I think that's how you pronounce his name, Dempsey. And I think he's got stuff about bases, so you should check out his channel. I was just I don't generally watch human design stuff, but that was one thing I actually did watch, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Because I can't even remember what my base is. Um, my black moon Lilith activates are 33 and 56, and both my Chiron is 12 and 2 real. Okay, cool. Nice to see you, collagen baby. Emotion 6-2 emotional generator. Me too. I get that. I would love to know what services I can offer to the world. Yeah, I know. I think that, that's just something that, I think you look at what makes your heart sing, what makes you feel like, you're alive, and trying to make that into something that, you can, sometimes you just start really small and just kind of do that little thing. And maybe you're doing a job you don't love, but, is there something that you do love to do? And I think that you hear about a lot of people who, they start these like things that, they just want to take it for some fun to do, and it turns into something bigger. The only way that we really know where we're going to move forward and change only happens when we're sort of looking at life and going, okay, I love doing this. This makes me happy. When we find a happiness, I think that is sort of the path to start walking. That the what makes me happy. And of course, life is not always about happy. We know that. But what makes me happy when I'm doing it and for that particular time, and maybe I can't do it all the time, but when I get to sit and do that one thing, or I get to run out and, jogging, if that's what you like to do, that just is like, that's the beginning of something, I think. If anything, it's just good for mental health, right? That's important too. Um, Distance healing. Okay, yeah, exactly. So, this is where you're saying you're healing people, and I've heard of that before, that same thing. And so that is 100%. So if we're looking again at this neutrino stream, like even these detriments and exaltations that we talk about in planets. And so if we have Pluto moving and it's 248 years, of course we're going to have a lot of any lines that it's activating, they eventually go out of play. And so what that says is that, but what Ra Uru said was that if you had one person in the whole of the world with that energy, that was still in the world. So how can we not have, energy being transported back and forth, distance, astral travel and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure I believe that, we have to try and decide what's correct for us. And, there's things that people say they can do that I wouldn't even attempt to try and do, because I just don't feel like that's part of my reality. But does that mean that they can't do it? No, it just means that I can't do it, and that's cool. We're all good. Like, you can pick up an aurora for sure. Cool, very cool. Jonah, yeah, is it? Yeah, you know what? I'll put a link to his YouTube channel, because that would be the easiest way to do it. But yeah, he's got a really nice talk about bases and stuff like that, and it's really good. And he, the thing about Ra Uruhu that talked about bases, and what he said was that basically it's like this thing that has to be very, 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 very specific. Like, you have to know your time of birth, because even just a couple of seconds can really shift it up. I do have a book on bases, and yes, I will someday read it. But again, my focus has been sort of on the gates for the last couple of years, and trying to find out every bit of information I could find about the gates and those types of things. Oh, you got it right. Thank you. Thank you, Galtana. I appreciate that. Any advice that comes to you for the moment for the 3.5 mg with a 60 channel? Well, it's basically 3.5. You're basically out there experimenting with things, and you're bringing a practical perspective to the world. And yes, you're under mutation, for sure. Like with the 360. Now remember, the 360 and any mutative energy, and then you don't know. And that's kind of what it is. And you're only going to get generally little pieces to the puzzle, and you'll get these little knowings of certain things, and you won't probably be able to explain it to anybody, because, you can't really explain it to yourself, but it will give you this kind of a vibe of this pulse. And I think that, I would look at the line that you have your gate 60 in. And I think that when Pluto's in a line that is sort of either in resonance or harmonic with that energy. So if it's in a second line, then you would look at the second and the fifth line. Like, so if Pluto's in the gate 60 line 2 or gate 60 line 5, it won't be in 60 line 2 anymore, but it will be in 60 line 5. So those types of things, like, look at those times, and there's no, like, I can't make a check mark and say, well, this is when it's going to happen. I wish we could do that. Like, we'd all love that, wouldn't we? To know exactly when that mutation is going to come, or that aha moment, or that, realization, or the awareness. Unfortunately, that is just not a possibility yet. Well, who knows with AI? Maybe that will come in the future. I doubt it, but potentially, who knows, right? But yeah, the 360 is like this idea of this, like, vat of everything that exists in the world is the gate 60, and the gate 3 kind of plucks something out. So they always say, if you have just the gate 60, you're always waiting for the gate 3 to come in and pluck that little bit of whatever out, and just bring this really cool thing out. Not everything's going to make it to the collective. It's got to be proven to be of value, and that's going to take time. And this is why individual energy is all about not being influenced, moving forward in your life, being unique, standing with your truth, and kind of moving forward, and not letting people slow you down or tell you don't know what you're doing. That's the biggest key with individual energy, because if you know, you know. And you only know when you know. And that sounds a little bit silly when you say it, but I think that if you have this inner knowing, then you know when it's on, and you know when it's not really giving you what you wanted to give you. All right. Well, this has been amazing. I've had a lot of fun. If you guys want to put some information about anything you want me to talk about, so that when if I do another live chat, which I'd like to do because it's kind of fun to do. I actually had a lot of fun chit chatting to everybody. Um, if there's specific topics that you want me to cover, I would absolutely love that, because if you give me a focus, I can bring some energy about it. And although I don't, you can still ask questions as you go. It doesn't always have to be like pre-planned. But having said that, I would absolutely love for any of information. And as the year goes on, I 100% plan on doing some videos. Like, I'm going to do the nodal transits for the year ahead. I do want to do some an updated version for a reflector video. And again, if there's anything specific that you guys say, okay, this is not being represented well enough, I'd love you to do this. If I can do it, I will do that. So I appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. I will see you guys in the community page. I will have a new video out tomorrow of the full moon that we're going to have. And I think that's where the gate 38 line 6 is. Don't quote me, but I think that's what it is. I'm always looking at charts, so it's hard to explain to remember them all. And I really appreciate everybody being here. I'm always, ready to answer any comments and questions. If I can answer it, I will. And I feel so blessed to be in this community. And thank you so much. And I will see you guys soon. Take care and bye for now.